Looking for more content about reinventing yourself? Hang on, I've got 3 recommendations from some TEDx talks. Welcome to Reinventing You, where I am going on a reinventioning journey and you can follow along. I post on Sundays and on Tuesdays. So you want to know more about reinventioning and reinventing yourself, but it's sort of overwhelming, or maybe you don't know where to start. I've got some TEDx talks that have been helpful for me and my journey, and hopefully these will get you started. I know that sometimes TEDx talks can be a little bit lengthy, but if you're anything like me, you find yourself skipping over the longer ones and then watching multiple of the shorter ones. But I promise these are worth your time. I'm looking for new subscribers, so if you can subscribe today, you can help me out. You will be able to follow along every time I post a new vlog. I probably started watching TED Talks and TEDx Talks before I really got into YouTube. So I realized that TEDx and TED Talks are really a major commitment in terms of time. But if you're anything like me, you get on YouTube and all of a sudden you find yourself, 30 minutes later, you're still watching. So I want to make sure we all make the best use of our time. And I thought I would start by recommending 3 TEDx talks that were really helpful for me in my reinventioning journey. First, I want to explain reinventioning is basically reinventing yourself, whether it's your career, your health, your relationships, your life. So I use reinventioning and reinventing all the time, and I use them for one another. They mean basically the same thing. I wanted to explain a little bit about TED Talks and TEDx, what the difference is. TED Talks started as a nonprofit company. They have 2 talks a year somewhere in the world, and they usually have major names to come and speak to an audience. So once they've had the TED Talk, they usually post it on YouTube, or you can go to tedtalk.com and watch it on their site as well. The purpose of TED is to spread ideas, and apparently 2 times a year was not enough, so they started doing local TED Talks called TEDx. And a lot of times if you watch a YouTube video with a TEDx, it'll say TEDx Berkeley or TEDx Atlanta. It will tell you where it actually happened. Be aware that they do happen all over the country and all over the world, but the ones that I happen to choose this time are all from California. The first TED Talk that I have to recommend is by Mel Robbins. I cannot say enough good things about Mel Robbins. If you have not discovered her 5-minute rule, her 5-minute rule book, I cannot recommend her highly enough. And I just came across her basically by accident. I had some continuing education money at the end of last year, and I just started going through Amazon, seeing what they recommended, and her book came up, and I said, oh, well, I'll try that. And I really enjoyed it. It is still impacting my life now. So I actually read the book before I saw the TEDx talk. I watched her TEDx talk, and actually she only talks about the 5-second rule like within the last few minutes of her talk. So the rest of the talk is about going after what you want. Basically, she says, what do you really want out of life? And she says not to think about what you think others would think you should want out of life, but what you really want out of life. What do you really desire? And I like the way she asks that question. And then she'll talk about, in her talk, she'll talk about what prevents us from going after the things that we really want, the things that we really desire. She does not let you make any excuses for not going after what you really desire in your life. So she's the first one that I would recommend to watch. And hers is TEDx San Francisco. The second TEDx talk that I would recommend is Maria Schleppi. She talks more about, not really in terms of career, but more about friends. What happened, she found herself so stressed in her current job, she was starting to go bald, and she knew she had to make a huge change in her life. And I mean, she really made a huge change. She quit her job. She broke up with her fiance. She moved to a new city. She got a new job. And it still wasn't enough because she realized she basically separated herself from her friends. And she said, I need some new friends. So she made this goal for a whole year, every day, that she would make a new friend. Now, she had some parameters to follow. She had to have some kind of connection with the person when they met. She had to have a real social exchange. In other words, it's not just online or, hey, you want to meet my friend next week. She actually had to meet somebody. And she could not go home until she'd made a new friend. It's a wonderful journey that she describes. I just highly recommend her, especially if you're thinking about, I really need to get rid of some of my friends because they're not healthy for me. They're holding me back from reinventing myself, from being the person that I'm called to be. And her talk is a TEDx talk from Venice Beach. The last TEDx talk that I recommend is from Ashley Stahl. She's a career coach. Her story is that she was a very young woman. She always dreamed about basically being a spy, and she had the perfect job. She got her dream job, and it just was not fulfilling for her. She realized that she was doing what she was passionate about, but she was not being who she really was in her career. So she had to take some stock of what she was really being called to do. All three of these address different things in our lives that can help us in our reinventioning process. Mel Robbins does a good job about thinking about what you really desire, what you're really passionate about, and how you can really go after that. Ashley Stahl recommends some questions to follow when looking for your career. And Maria Schleppe can give us some helpful hints about a fresh start, especially making new friends. So what TED or TEDx talks have you discovered that will help other people in reinventioning? I would invite you to put in the comments below maybe a talk that you heard or have watched on YouTube, or even another video that you would highly recommend. And speaking of ideas worth spreading, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. The more folks who subscribe, the more folks who can join us. I hope you found this recommendations for some TEDx talks helpful for your own reinventioning journey. I will see you next Sunday or Tuesday, and I hope you have a great one. Thank you for joining me on Reinventing You.